गुड मॉर्निंग सर जी, कैसे हैं आप? तो आज आपका वाटर शेडर बना रहे हैं. लेट्स स्टार्ट देन. So the first thing that we need is of course a plane. Scale it to 10 because why not? And screencast keys. Now you'll be able to see whatever I type over here. That's very nice. Now let's move on to the shader editor. Shift F3 3 times to enter the shader editor. Click on the plane, new, and we have a new material over it. Do remember that this one looks better in cycles, so change to cycles. Why is it not changing? Okay, cycles. Experimental is optional, not optional now, supported. Keep it unsupported. And we'll go to subdivision surface tab, subdivide it like 10 times should be enough. Simple. Then duplicate it. Now change it to cat mill Clark. I don't know what that's. Just change it to the C1. And now we can start working. Change it to shading, and it's white. We don't need principal BSDF, so we can say goodbye. We need emission. And now you would be thinking, why emission? Water doesn't emit light. And just fuck off. Stay quiet and listen. So now that we have emission, we'll add some textures. First one is noise texture, and I add one instead of that. Noise texture. Nice. Now go to edit preferences and check if you have Node Wrangler installed. NODE, Node Wrangler installed. If it is installed, then enable it. Like this check mark should be there. Do that, and then click on noise texture, Control T. It should bring these two, texture coordinate and mapping. Let's explain a little bit about both. Texture coordinates are the coordinates of any point on an object. Like this point has its coordinate, this point, like XY coordinate, just being that they have X, Y and Z also, like this. Okay, so we need object coordinates, so we'll change it to that. And the shortcut I used to preview that was Control Shift click, left mouse click. Now it's changing. These are the object coordinates. I changed it from generated. If it will go back to generated, because in generated the 0,0 point, that is your origin, is over here, but in object it's over here. Like this is the negative part, the third quadrant. This is the first and second quadrant. So this is the origin. And I did that because we are used to working with this type of, rather than the generated coordinates where the origin is like over here. Now we need noise texture over here. Noise texture is like Control Shift and click to preview it. Noise texture is just some random maths. I say it random because I don't know what the math used in it is, but it is some math that is used to generate like this type of texture. The only use for us is that we use Control Shift and right click drag until two green boxes appear on our texture coordinate and noise texture, and then we release. This will add a mix node. We will change that mix to multiply, and then we'll bump it up to 1. Now what we are doing is we are multiplying the noise texture to our texture coordinates. What that does is it takes the texture coordinates and these coordinates are color coded on the basis of the points. Like this is 0 0, so this one will be black. Along here, like say this point is 1 comma 1, so this point is blue. This point is something else, say 10 comma 10, so this point is pink. In between, and what noise texture is doing is it's taking that 2 point texture coordinates, sorry, 2 point coordinates, and adding a z direction to it. So wherever the noise texture acts, there goes one extra coordinate that makes it black or darker. That's not necessary for you to know, but just if you're curious, you can. Now we add this color to vector, and then you might be thinking, adding color to vector. We are able to do that because the noise texture outputs vector in the form of vector in the form of vector, and the generated the texture coordinates also outputs vectors. So this is, and I told that we need object coordinates, so I changed from generated to object, and that's why we are able to combine 2 vector coordinates and form a single vector, which is then getting back to a vector. That means this color notation over here is wrong. Well, not completely wrong, because color is also kind of vector, but it is wrong in this case. Now we need a Voronoi texture. VOR Voronoi texture, and we add, like, that's a cool effect, I guess. Very easy to get also. We add mapping vector, and we don't need color, we don't need position, we need distance. There was a little intrusion from mom's side, so sorry for that. Now we can continue. Voronoi texture, we add a color ramp, and we crunch it up a little bit, maybe not, well, whatever. We add this to strength, not color. I recorded it like 3 times, and this is the 3rd recording, and every time I added this to color, and it fucked up my output, so be careful of that. And you might be thinking, well, this looks like pure shit, so you are wasting my time. I'm going, but I would say wait, it is about to get interesting. So next we add another noise texture. This time we don't add anything like texture coordinates or anything to it. Also keep in mind that the details means generally when you need detail, you turn up the detail. And then we combine these both. So shift, control, right click, drag, leave it, mix. And you can either click this arrow or press H on the keyboard to unhide it. It is hidden, not hidden, I can already see, but whatever. Then multiply, it will add multiply like it did with texture coordinate. It added noise texture to it. The same thing is being done here too. The Voronoi texture is getting multiplied by the noise texture, and the more the slider is pulled to the left hand side or right hand side, sorry, the more Voronoi texture gets revealed, because they are getting completely mixed, and more to the left hand side, noise texture. So I like to keep it around like 650, personal preference though. Now we need the same thing down here, and as you can see, like, this looks very flat. So what we do is we add another, and we can probably add this color ramp is probably not required, and we do need a color ramp after this, so we can add it over here, and this one goes over here. Now what we need is like this is looking very flat, so we need to get some detailed. So we can fake that by using bump node. If I can type bump, we add that and everything goes white. Can you guess why? 1 2 3 4 5. You are given 5 seconds. Now your time is over. That is because it defaults to normal coordinates, and we need to change that to height coordinates. And now something will happen like that, and now you'd say it looks more like a rock than ocean. And to that I would say just wait, I'm fixing that. Now we again duplicate that, and now this noise texture that we duplicated comes in handy. You can keep that at anything you want scale, like after the fact you've made that and you want to like make changes to this texture. That time the scale is necessary. To get the base result, that is not very necessary. Like now, well, now you can guess that this texture can also be used to generate rocks like plateaus and stuff. But we are creating water over here, so we'll go with that. And G. As I told you earlier, this material preview, it's based on EV. So what we are going to do next is use displacement. This was fake bump and we are using displacement, so we require actual bump. Like the geometry should be displaced. That's why we add this subdivision surface modifier. So we change to cycles, and you can already see that there is more detail than there was before, or I'm just hallucinating, whatever the case might be. Now we need ambient occlusion, that is the first node, so no need to type that. Now you'd see that it got more black, and that is also something that I've been doing for like previous 3 recordings, that not changing this color to normal. This color should be changed to normal and bumped to 128 sorry, and a color ramp should be added to get the effect that we are looking for, like that. Now you can see this somewhat looks like ripples of water, but they are opposite, and by opposite I mean that they look kind of flat. So we can invert them using a node called invert. It's very simple. Like now it looks more like water now. Would you agree with me? You can leave this at you can leave it at this, but I'd like to go a little bit further and refine it. So the bump strength here determines how much these ripples you see from the secondary noise texture, this one. So like this, no ripples from there and many ripples. I like to keep it around here, and this one is the main, like how intense do you want it to be. I like to keep it at around here. Okay, now what we can do is like I don't like how dull this is, so we can add a math node, turn it up to multiply, and multiply it by 1.5. Now that looks more bright. We can even multiply it further, but that will turn it into stylized kind of thing. So that is 1.5 for you, and that's about it. That is the shader. Now everything that comes after it is like customization that you do yourself. So before we end the tutorial, I would like to give you some tips. If we set it to 2, you can see that it becomes more flat. If you are going for a calm type of setting, then this might be helpful. But using this setup, it is not, well, I don't like the look of it, so I turn it up to 16 for all the noise textures. Another thing that you can do is turn up the roughness. That would make it like that. Don't turn it up to 100, it will look shit, as you can probably see. But turning it up like to 565 or even 600 looks kinda cool. Like, I guess it looks kinda cool. For now, I'll leave it at 550. Sorry, 0.550. This one is also the same effect, but okay, one more important thing that you can probably guess, or maybe not, is that this noise texture is the most powerful texture, and powerful in the sense that it controls the major movements. Like the scale I'm changing, it's making the effect more or less obvious, you can say. So this is, and also if you don't like this particular setting but you don't want to change the scale, you can change it from 3D to 4D. It would give you extra what you can say, slider, which is called W. W doesn't make sense because it is like changing the positions, randomizing. Like do you remember that during the starting I told you that texture coordinates have like 0 0 or 0 0 over here, and they are like coordinates 1 comma 1 minus 1 comma 5, whatever. So this is a slider that adds that random value to every coordinate in this plane. So changing this slider makes everything go mayhem. That's what I'm trying to say. So like you can animate this to make moving water. That's the base point I'm getting at. Now this one, it's the subtle changes like these and these. I would recommend like not turning them up very much, because then that makes this effect look very bad. Like if I show you 25, it looks like earth forms are crawling over everything. So I prefer it at 3.9, something like that. and then this is the main Voronoi texture that that is controlling everything. So not everything, means this is a basis for that. So it will control the scale of the tides, and other than that it is not something that you should be concerned about. This slider will change it like that. Basically what it is doing, that changing, like it would be useful if I just showed you what it is doing. This is how it originally looks after doing this all thing and inputting it in there. So this is how it looks. If I turn this white slider over here, it is clamping all the white values. It is bringing up those gray values and clamping them to 1. Like it is saying if the value is lower than, if the value is like 9.9, make it 1 and then clamp it over here. Don't make it go up 1.1 or 1.2. I hope that makes sense. And the more you slide it over here, the more it intensifies. Like at this point it might be saying that every value from 1, how much, from like 0.5 to 1, every value between 0.5 to 1 will be plain white, and every value below that will be gray. So that is what this does. Now let's get our last effect. So this sums it up. I hope you liked it. I hope it's useful. Okay, one more thing. You can add a displacement node over here. If you are using cycles, you can add a displacement node and use this bump as a normal. And remember, if you are using any color input, for the bump node, you need to use it as a height unless it's a vector that has already been converted. Like here, this noise texture, first I inserted it along height. Then after it got converted into a vector using this bump node, I connected it using normal. Same case here, this is a normal input, I mean a vector input, so it will be inserted in a vector. If I insert it in scale or mid level, it will not work. Okay, that's something to keep in mind. And displacement goes into displacement. I don't know what changes it made, but something it would have made, so I guess that helps. And that's water shader for you. Okay, I hope you liked it, and good night.